Exciting news, everyone. We have our very first sponsor.
That's right. Cledge Shed is a local independent retailer of used and repaired 125 motorcycles.
Now, I was lucky enough to actually go there myself. Big shout out to George for showing me around and having a great discussion. I love how the place looks with the bikes on the left for sale and the bikes on the right that are being restored, just in case you see something you might fancy in the future.
That's right. Please check out their website, link in the description below.
Hello, I am the Rhythmic biker. And did you know Yamaha started out as a piano company? Nowadays, they create some of the best bikes that the world has ever seen. Last time round on the show, we had Dave, the sidecar dog, as well as his owner, Dave, who took us on a magical journey through their amazingly funny experiences of riding around the world together. This week, we're joined by a local delivery rider with a hooligan bike.
These are the wolf tails.
And I also freaking love taking pillions as a woman on the front because I'm like, yeah, I've got someone on the back and he's bigger than me and I can still ride better than you. Hi, I'm Esther. I am a motorbike rider, an artist and a deliverer from Northampton. I've been riding for 4 years. I'm currently studying a master's in fine art, so my hands are either always covered in paint or in motorbike grease and never clean from anything. I am on my 4th bike and hope to keep riding for many years to come.
So we are joined by Esther, who can be found on Instagram as Esther Ross Arts. And speaking of arts, she has kindly brought in her Yamaha MT-07, worthy of Mona Lisa appreciation. She also brings the unique perspective, seeing the world through the eyes of a delivery rider. But before all of that, let's dive straight into the deep dive of the hooligan bike. So, Esther, you have brought in your 2019 Yamaha MT-07 in for us today. Tell us a bit about the bike, how you came to acquire it.
This is my baby, Annabelle, she's called. My first big bike. I have had 3 different bikes in the course of my biking career. Started out on 125s and went up to a Kawasaki Z300 that I put many, many, many miles on. And then when she was getting ready to be retired, I was looking at the next big bike that I wanted to get and had my heart set on an 09. But ended up getting the 7, and I cannot say that I regret it in any way. Firstly, it was the price difference. At the time, I couldn't quite afford to get the 9, and I thought there was just this beautiful model, really good condition, sitting at the local bike garage, and I just fell in love with it. Hilariously fun. It's a complete hooligan bike. It's disastrous for fuel economy if you want to ride like a normal person. It's just too easy to...
Who does that anyway?
Yeah.
This is it.
Really, I think it's the engine that's the star of the show. It's a parallel twin with a cross-plane crank, which makes it sound and feel more like a V-twin. And it's just got so much character. Yami bikes are just so peppy and unpredictable and fun, and there's a really rubbish throttle response so you get jerked around all the time. But it's just fun to ride. It's not smooth.
No, but enjoyable, yeah.
So
It's an
you
experience.
saying it's a hooligan bike as well, it doesn't help that you've put this rather lovely exhaust on.
Oh, yes.
Because
Well,
you know,
yes.
this studio does reverberate quite a bit, and when you turn that on, suddenly it's just a whoa. Okay, I've heard some
Yeah.
loud bikes, but that is.
Well, you were saying that it wasn't loud enough, but I purposely chose the...
I actually was disappointed that it didn't have a straight pipe. Yeah,
Yes,
promise
I
me
chose the
next time when we meet up it'll be straight pipe.
No.
Baffle out, straight pipe on, and rocking and rolling. It's interesting you say about the engine. In 2020, German engineering statistics actually said that this was the most reliable motorcycle engine on the market. I think that is a credit to Yamaha. I know they've now reused this engine in the Yamaha MT-07, their sort of adventure bike. Whether that's what the reception is of that, I don't know, but the engine's obviously done itself credit, hence why it wouldn't be reused and recycled. But you've mentioned bad points about a bit jerky. Anything that maybe people should be aware of if they were looking at one of these bikes? Or
So it is kind of a budget bike, although it's not, because it's so much. You get so much quality bike for your money, but you have to be aware that they have skimped out on a few areas. So you have like the plastic tank, the throttle response is like there's a delay, it's not as smooth as you would expect it to be. And then on the swing arm, like along here where the welding is, usually you'll find that paint cracks and it starts rusting, and mine has got a few spots down there already.
Starting to go.
It's
only,
just
it's
an
only
empty
3
thing.
years, isn't it? Only 3 years old and it's starting to go.
Although I do abuse her, so I use her like all day, every day.
Obviously having a bit of a chat before, you're not a fair weather rider.
No.
I think that's fair to say.
Hence the square tyres, don't they?
This bike sees a variety of weathers all year round, which it's nice to see actually, because I think we obviously ride all year round as well, and that's what they're here to do, isn't it? It is a bit of a shame about the Yamaha paint. I'm no stranger to it. I used to own, I suppose, this bike's distant cousin in the FZS 600, and that already the frame had started to go. Little bits here, the forks actually needed repainting, so they needed to come off completely, strip back down. It will need doing on this bike, but it depends how long you plan to keep hold of it. What is the next progressive step for you? Where do you see yourself going, or do you see yourself keeping this all the time as a second bike, or just perhaps,
No, I think I've got a good few years left with her.
Okay.
I did have my heart set on the 9. I fell in love with the triple and the sound of the 9, but that's not for a while yet.
No.
And I'm not sure what my next big bike is, but I'm just gonna enjoy this. Like, I'm enjoying moving up kind of slowly to get the chance to just really get to grips with each kind of engine capacity as you go up through the ranks, and not just immediately hit the thousands and then be bored.
Did you hear that? That's a smart advice, everybody. Those people who go from 125s to like 1200 cc's, you're like, what are you doing? No, that's fine. Have you got any crazy adventures from being on this bike? Has it gone anywhere particularly special?
Yeah, so in September last year, just after the lockdowns kind of eased a bit, I went over to France to see my mum, and I have a little sticker on the number plate from the region where my mum lives in France, and actually where I grew up.
Oh wow, okay, look at that.
So yeah, she's been on her first long distance baptismal tour, and I plan to take her across Europe because she is a touring bike.
I was about to say, we've had this debate before recording, and I'm not too sold on the MT being a touring bike, but apparently you smack a screen on something, touring motorcycle. I have to ask, what is it like to tour with? Because obviously being a sport tourer rider myself, my touring is luxurious. I'm very comfortable, the bike's got enough grunt to get me anywhere, all motorways. How is this to ride of touring?
So I'm coming from a slightly different perspective, where I took my Kawasaki Z300 to Amsterdam. In comparison, this is like a dream. She can sit at 70, 80, 90, absolutely fine. And she's just got enough power to go anywhere. I wouldn't necessarily go 2 up or take a pillion touring. I don't think it's quite big enough for that, and there's not enough room for luggage. But yeah, backpack, strap stuff on, just make a mountain out of it and go and have fun. Bikes are meant to be used.
Yes, that is very
You can tour
true.
anything, you can ride anything, you just have to be brave enough. I found that So these tabs come under the back seat naturally, and they're like perfect for the Krieger bags. Like they just sit on top. I don't actually own one. I've borrowed one on like infinite
Smart.
loan.
Infinite loan. I'll give it back to you when I can.
And then I had some panniers, but I sort of had like trouble, like they were hanging down too low, so we had to like brace them over the top of the Krieger bag, and it was a bit of like a bodge job.
I was about to say,
I am a bodge job
Was there
person,
many bungee
so-
cords? I'm just picturing bungee cords galore all over the bag, like it will hold if I strap it down enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you do the old fashioned way it's all on, you shake it going, that's not going anywhere?
Yeah, exactly.
Has to be done, has to be done. We've been talking a bit about the suspension as well, because contrary to what the reviews online say, they praise this bike's suspension and braking power. But you have other things to say, and I'm quite intrigued to hear where the contradiction is, where the confusion is.
Well, I don't know what reviews you've been looking at.
Bad ones, apparently.
They must be biased. So the MT suspension is notorious, so like across, apart from the SPs, but the MT-07, the MT-09, notoriously bad, spongy suspension. Like they've upgraded it from the Gen 1 to the Gen 2, but it dives. If you hit the brakes, she just nosedives, like
Just
into
wants
the
to
ground.
go into the ground. Perfect for all of those who want to be doing those stoppies, those dank stoppies. Perfect bike for you, but ultimately as well, that's going to cause a lot of damage to fork seals. You know, it's not what you really want on a bike like that, and I'm surprised really actually to hear you say that, because like I say, from looking up on the bike, everyone, all the, I suppose, reviewers who perhaps do have a biased perspective or perhaps need to give a good result or two, might not have test rode it as much, but you've lived with it.
Yeah.
So you have a much better insight picture than the rest of us. It's just interesting. And the brakes, they're quite not as powerful as what you'd like? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to them now, so I don't really like think about it, but before I bought this, I test rode it like numerous Hondas and things, and the brakes and suspensions were just glorious, but the engines were just horribly boring. So, it's kind of, you can tell that that's perhaps where they've cheaped out a bit. There's not any adjustment available on the suspension, the front suspension anyway. There is on the back a little bit.
You've already mentioned, haven't you, it is a budget bike in effect, although the Gen 1s, I remember when the MTs first really hit the scene, I think they were about four something K when they first hit the scene, and then this one came out, the Gen 2s, and they were all of a sudden up to the 6s, and I thought, yeah, because it's been received very well, you know what I mean, the reception that they got was fantastic. It is now worth pointing out that the Gen 3 is out of the MTs now. For this, I know the engine's been significantly refreshed, just for Euro 5, unfortunately. We've already ranted about emissions, so I won't go into it too much. But it's also had larger brake discs, which I'm hoping would sort out that brake problem, and wider bars. Is there a need for wider bars, or is that just...
Personally, I find the width of the bars fine. I've heard that they've brought the bars back a bit on the new model. I don't know if that's correct, but I would be interested to test ride it, because, you know, as a woman on the bike, like, you do find that you don't quite have the arm length that they might expect you to, so it would be nicer to have it brought forward a bit. But I'm adamant in a way, like, not to change this bike. Like, I've seen lowered MT-07s, like, so, you know, the short ones can flat foot it, but I'm like, no, I ride it how it is. That's how she's meant to be. Quite
comfortable. Is there a lot on the market in terms of sort of aftermarket bars, like Rentfuls? I know do a lot of options now with their, I think, 718s and stuff like that, but is there much options for this bike? Yeah, I mean, I haven't like looked into changing the bars or anything, but one of the best things about like the MT-07 in a way is that it's really fun, but it's quite common, so there's a lot out there that you can change. Mirrors, and I've changed the levers and put a radiator guard and put the stickers on, and yeah, so you can personalise them a lot, because they're like a blank canvas in a way when you get them. You were telling me earlier that you know what MT stands for, and I am intrigued because I didn't know it stood for anything. Yeah, MT stands for Master of Torque. There you go. Interested. Where and why have they got that? Why? Because it's an MT. They are known, and this engine like is known to be, it's torquey. You know, it can
like down low power is just like insane. I'd even say that it sort of matches the 9. Down low, it's just top end, it kind of peters out.
Of course, you'd expect that, wouldn't you, from the bigger displacement engine, everything like that. Be worth noticing for all you, or noting for all you statistic freaks out there, 68 newton meters of torque at 6,500 RPM. Not bad at all, is it? And again, we go back to that cult culture, the hooligan stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen them everywhere. You can't escape them. If you ever go to the Ace Cafe in London, they're there pulling off those wheelies and stuff like that. It's the perfect bike for it, ultimately.
It is, yeah.
Do you like the fact that you own the bike associated with that image, if you will, or is it something that maybe people then have an expectation of what you're going to ride like? You turn up at a bike meet and they go, "Oh, MT, pulling a wheelie as she goes out of this car park."
I wish. I've only ever power wheelied it by accident.
Oh.
I think when I first got it in like the first 3 weeks, I went on a bit strong and like power wheelied it like 3 times. Like, whoa!
It has to be done.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
I would love to learn to do that consciously, but I'm like so trained to let the clutch out slowly that it's just
That's absolutely fine. And you were telling me you own another bike as well for your job.
So I am a delivery driver, delivery rider. I work for Deliveroo and Just Eat and Uber Eats, and properly part of like the gig economy. And I have done it on a motorbike for 2 years, and recently just switched to a Honda PCX, which is a moped or a scooter.
Yes.
I call it a scooter, but the amount of customers I ring and I'm like, "I'll see you on the scooter in like 5 minutes," and they expect me to turn up on the electric ones you get around town.
That's not good, is it?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not even a Vespa. I would prefer to be expected to turn up on a Vespa than I would, on an electric scooter. Why a Honda? I need to know why a Honda PC when you've got that affiliation now with Yamaha. Is there nothing on the Yamaha market for that, or?
There's Yamaha do like the NMAX scooter. So I had my Kawasaki Z300 and I was actually delivering on that for over a year. But it was expensive to replace parts. I had like brakes that were seizing with the salt, and like you could have fried an egg on the back brake disc at times. Like, it's just horrendous. Fork seals going. Like using a bike that hardcore it's difficult because it hurts the bike after a while. So having a scooter that you can drop and slide at roundabouts and all that goes wrong with it is like a scratched fairing and you don't have to replace levers is like perfect.
Brilliant. Would you ever consider delivering on this? Deliveries would be done really quick, wouldn't they? Can you imagine how quick you get from A to B?
So you're not allowed to insure anything over a 500cc for hire and reward, but I won't say that I haven't.
Oh, I like that. But you won't say that you have. No, that is absolutely brilliant. Well, thank you so much for telling us about your MT-07. And I look forward to hearing a bit more about what you've been up to in your biking experience over the years.
Thank you.
Well, welcome.
I have been riding for about 4 years. I started out on 125. I had a couple of those for 2 years before I did my full license. During the pandemic, I think it was in the middle of like the first and second lockdown, I got my license and then immediately took my 300 to Amsterdam. My dad was a biker, but I think it was more than that for me. I have this very vivid memory as an 8-year-old seeing this Suzuki GN or GS or something, this beautiful classic black bike. And I saw it as a child, as an 8-year-old, and I thought, I'm going to be a biker. The magic of that moment never really left me, and I just knew since I was like tiny that I kind of wanted to ride and that I needed to be on 2 wheels. I think the feeling you get as a biker is freedom and independence. Most of the bikers that I have met have been people with stories and softness and sometimes brokenness. And biking is a medicine and a meditation. Riding is the one thing that for me makes me feel alive, makes me feel like, yeah, this is who I am. Kind of illustrating the connection you get as a biker with other bikers, but also as a Deliveroo rider. I decided to go on this trip to Utrecht Pulled up in the main square, immediately saw like a delivery rider on this like little moped and was like, oh hi, I'm a delivery rider in England. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And we got chatting, he's like, what do you deliver on? I was like, this bike here is like my life, you know, it's my job, it's my joy and everything. Ended up spending the afternoon with a complete stranger who took me on the back of his 50cc moped around this tiny city in Utrecht, which was so fun because in Holland there are certain mopeds under a certain engine capacity are allowed to drive in the cycle lanes, and they have special plates so you can differentiate them from the ones that have to stay on the road. So I was on the back of his 50cc, didn't know the person. He showed me all around. And when I told my family what had happened, they were like, you did what? You just trusted a stranger, but there's a sense that you can get from people, especially bikers. Being a delivery rider, it's a lot of fun. I started it as a way to kind of meld my passion for bikes and having a job out of it, and I also started delivering because I had a breakdown basically, and it was a job that I could be completely in charge of my hours. I didn't have to be up early. I could, you know, do short days, long days, depending on my energy, and there was no one breathing down my neck. So it suited me. It suited what I was going through at the time. Right at the start, sometimes I could only do like 1 or 2 deliveries and my stress levels were so high I'd have to go home. But I built up my stamina, and you know, I now like been working full time, like 8-9 hours in the wet and the cold and the dark. But yeah, I think the best thing about the gig economy is the flexibility and the lack of having a boss, I guess, in a way. But it does have its downsides. The pay, they're constantly squeezing the pay so that we get less and less and have to work harder and harder to make sure that you're staying above minimum wage and that you can pay. You know, it's not just a check at the end of, you know, the week or the month. You have to factor in your taxes and fuel and insurance as a self-employed person. So it's quite a lot to manage. But yeah, it's a very freeing job to have. I'm trying to think, there's so many crazy stories as a delivery rider. I think my favourite is probably delivering to the Northampton nudist. His address is known to the delivery riders. I won't share it. But yeah, I was told to watch out for this address, and then yeah, one day it popped up on my screen. I think I don't know if I accepted it on purpose or if I'd already like not realizing. Got to his house and he has a front door with frosted glass, so even if he stands behind the door, you're delivering to a nudist. And they'd never expect a woman. So the whole, you know, modesty thing, the amount of times that people open the door and say, you know, thanks mate, oh gosh, sorry, I didn't realise you were a girl. Because there are so few female deliverers, there's so few females on 2 wheels. I'm like the only one that I know. I wouldn't recommend people doing my job, no, because there are already too many people doing it, and then there's not enough orders for those that have been doing it for a long time. No, in a way, I think the gig economy perfectly suits like a millennial who struggles with commitment and yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. It's a hard lifestyle in a way. You have to work late nights, weekends. Your social life is practically zero if you want to hit the busy hours. I ride in the rain, in the snow, in the ice, in the freezing cold, which is, you know, basically most of the year in the UK. There's no break, and we get 2 weeks of, you know, gorgeous sunny summer weather, and then it's too hot and you don't want to wear your gear, but you have to and you're boiling. So there's just no in between, but that's bikers, the story of bikers everywhere, I guess. So I've heard about there being the UK's biggest female meet. I think I saw it posted once, but I haven't thought much more about it. I didn't realise quite how much significance it might hold. But if it is the case that it's like an important event, I think I'll definitely think about going. I've been to female biker events before and been a little bit disappointed at times. I've rarely ever found anyone my age riding. Mostly found that it's, you know, older women. It's absolutely still wonderful, but I don't find many people, you know, my age. And some of the female biker events I've been to, some of them are still pillion or they've brought their husbands along, and there's just, you know, it'd be nice to have just a women's event, just once, because it is a very, very male-heavy sector. Like all of the biker events, you have to be comfortable as a woman, and I am, being around lots of men, and you have to have a part of your brain that is capable of just talking about bike specs and enjoying bike specs, which, you know, is fine, but there's a time and a place for switching that off as well. It would be nice to see more women and younger women riding. I think it's important that women know that biking is for them and is a space where they can own like a portion of that space. I think there's a lot that the industry still has a long way to go before it, you know, is fully inclusive. Being better at making clothes for women. Honestly, if you're a female rider and you don't like pink, there's nothing for you. I'm quite lucky that I do enjoy wearing pink gear, but not a lot of women do. Women's gear is often not made to the same quality, the same standard as men's gear. It's like they expect you to be pillion, to not be riding 365 days a year, to not be riding in the wet. It's getting better, but the amount of clothes I've had to try on to find stuff that's the right fit, it's taken me a long time to find gear that I'm really happy and comfortable with. To young women who are taking an interest from an early age in biking, I would encourage them wholeheartedly to give it a go, to try it out, to see if it's a fit for them. Biking isn't for everyone, but to have that experience, whether that's as a pillion or on the front, to get that feel for what biking is, do it. And if you're serious about getting into it, then I would encourage them to get proper training and to have a really, really good grounding in the whole thing, that, you know, realizing that biking is so much fun but also very dangerous, and to have a good grasp of the whole thing and realize that it's something that you can always improve at and always enjoy. And I'm going to be riding till I'm 90.
So I think we can all agree that Esther has made some vitally important points regarding the motorcycle industry's assumptions towards women in biking. Please put down in the comments below how you believe we could best tackle this issue together as a motorcycle community. Remember, we would love to have you here as a guest on Wolf Tales, sharing your stories and experiences. Also remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel. This video was kindly brought to you by Kled Shed. I am the Rhythmic Biker, and these are the Wolf Tales.
These are the Wolf Tales.